Aquarius, discretion leading to the power of meditation. Hello everyone, welcome again to this month's virtue practice. And although each of these monthly practices can stand alone, and we can choose a particular virtue to bring into practice, we were beginning to also see, particularly in this virtue, how the practice itself is beginning to flourish or blossom within us. In this particular virtue of discretion, we have this power to act and decide according to our own judgment, which is what we've been working with in one way in each virtue. But now it becomes a power, a capacity. And when it's a capacity of that nature, it now has a force of transformation with it. So we may have something that's an idea, and yet as an idea, it's not yet a capacity. Once it is evolved into a will activity that in a way becomes part of us, it no longer just is an idea, but actually becomes a potent force as it's engaged with. And we might begin to recognize this as we get closer towards the end of the cycle of the 12 virtues. So we see this discretion, which also leads us to the power of meditation. And for me, this has been a very interesting contemplation, because my experience is also that the power of meditation gives rise to this discretion in its meaning that we have this freedom to do in any particular situation what we recognize needs to be done. Now, that's interesting when we consider these virtues. We've always looked at the first aspect of the virtue leading us to a second aspect. And yet there is also a correlation. Could the second aspect of the virtue lead us to develop an outer ability to work with the first aspect? And I certainly have experienced this myself. In the power of meditation actually gives rise to the supporting blossoming of the deeper meaning of discretion. This word freedom, the freedom to decide, the freedom to know, to judge what needs to be done. And that's something, of course, as I said, we've already been working with each month. Everyone has been deciding, determining for themselves how to enact, how to bring into the will the engagement of the virtue. But now we have it really as an archetype in this Aquarius virtue. And there's something in this Aquarius sign that is recognized in its relationship to freedom. Now, we have potentially heard that meditation is one of our only free deeds. And so it's always a complex thing to understand that. But there is in this virtue a deepening of that understanding, because this relationship between the freedom to act and decide and the power of meditation and how they correlate with each other. And yet meditation, in many senses, is such an inward development of something, an inward potency and power within one's own being. And yet discretion is a way of bringing that freedom that is cultivated inwardly into the outer relationship to the world. The freedom just to decide what to do according to your own discernment, your own discretion. So we're starting to see in a way some fruits, though of course each can stand alone. And you may be working with only one of the virtues every day, and some of you may be choosing to work with a few of the virtues. In a certain sense, this is already your discretion at work. How will you enact and work with what needs to be done? So now we're coming close towards the end of the cycle. We can start to feel potentially the power of having worked with this yearly virtue practice and how it really cultivates new capacities. Now, I brought this picture in the very beginning of working, so you might want to listen to the introduction of why we started with the 12 virtues as a thought process. We worked with the polarities of that. We tried to understand it deeply in the realm of thinking. And then we worked this year with the virtues as a will process. And the recognition that when something is coming into being, the will needs to enter the thinking enters into the will, and then the development of this new capacity of the ability to experience what is become new in you becomes in this realm of feeling when we're developing something new. When we're giving what we have to give, it can be usually, but the order is different. We give our thinking, we give our feeling, and we give our will. And there's this correlation between the thoughts into the feeling, into the will, with the capacities we already have. But developing new capacities, growing capacities, evolving something on the path of self-development requires thought and then will, or the will into the thinking into the will. So whenever you've been doing one of these deed will processes, whichever month you've been using, in many ways you've been working with thinking, discretion of judgment of what to do in the will. We've already been doing this each month, and now it becomes archetyped. And in the archetype of now entering into this practice with that recognition, we may be able to discern even deeper layers of this virtue. So you've been doing it every month, and again now, how will you enact this discretion in the will through the course of this month to unfold this power into the world around you? So again, when you've done this deed each day, or when you've worked through that process, you'll follow the streaming of the will, which is coming into the head, down the front of your body and into the heart. This fine etheric streaming is what supports the creative new. And it's useful when you're creating something to support that activity to become an experience in the change in flow of the life body. This is not just to become an idea. It's to become a deed. It's to become a power, a accessible capacity. So now we will hear the verse, work with the eurythmy, and feel the culmination of our work to date. Thank you, everyone.
May what is bounded yield to the boundless. What feels the lack of bounds, may it create bounds for itself in its depths. May it raise itself into the current as wave flowing forth, sustaining itself, in becoming, shaping itself to existence. Set yourself bounds, oh, boundless. And let the streaming move from above the head, down the face, and into the heart.
Aquarius. Hello. This month's constellation of Aquarius sees the human being in a state of balance. You saw my gesture that was constantly in movement, and this is something that's very different to all the other gestures that we've looked at from Aries all the way around to here. And in this gesture, we have this constant breathing, this constant movement of this up and down gesture, which in the other gestures, if you remember, if you go right back to Aries and follow your way through to where we are now, all the gestures started in movement, but then they came to rest. So if you remember last month of Capricorn, we had this movement and then it came to rest. But in Aquarius, it keeps moving, as in the human being in a state of balance. And we could almost, well, we could do this with our legs as well, this gesture. And we do it, we could say, when we're walking. And it belongs to the calf, the shin of the leg. So we've moved right down further now to the lower part of the leg, which enables us to be able to walk, to step forwards. And as we know, the knee from last month goes first, but then comes the shin that lifts and carries us through the space. So our virtue for this month is discretion. And discretion can lead us to the power of meditation. So you can probably get a sense of that in the movement of Aquarius that you just viewed just a moment ago. The colour is a rose pink, a darker pink than what we saw with the previous colours. And it's going to bring us this beautiful quality into our gesture as well. So I will just step back a tiny bit because I'm aware that my hand might not be in view of the screen. And let's just try this gesture together. So you're raising your right arm to around about the top of the head. The left one is pointing down, and just very gently letting the arms move at the same time. And then release. Let's do that once more. Right arm up, left arm down. And releasing. Just pause for a moment. And we'll do it 2 more times. Just silently. And if you're able to do this without looking at the screen, that's great. Certainly in a few days' time you'll be able to do that. So let's try this. The human being in a state of balance. Now I'd also like to point out that Aquarius is here in the zodiac circle, and diagonally opposite is Leo. And if you remember, the formation that comes in with Leo is the heart. And again, with Leo, it's the only organ of the body and a very most important, the center of the human being that is in this part of the zodiac. And no other part of the zodiac do we see the organs. They come into the planets. When we speak about the planets, they come in there. And with the planets, again, the heart comes in with the sun. And this sun and the heart have a very beautiful connection. So if you're thinking now that we have the human being in a state of balance in this beautiful movement, and then diagonally opposite, we have the formation of the heart, which came with this fiery enthusiasm and this blue of the sky. And now we're into this rose pink with the human being in a state of balance. I'm going to start now our practice. First 3 times the E-R-O, 3 times Aquarius, and then if we can silently, without me speaking it, can you reach for the heights and let this enter in through the top of your head, through your larynx, and down into this mystery center of the heart. Let's do all that in silence together. Aquarius. And now the streaming.